Everybody's always asking, do I have enough? Am I going to have enough? Am I saving enough? Am I investing enough? And ultimately, what are other people doing with their money? It's a comparison game. We just can't help ourselves. And that's what our chopping topic is today. Hello, I'm your host, Dr. Preston Cherry, founder and CEO of Concurrent Financial Planning. We let your life lead your money. This is what this podcast is brought to you by. If you want to get started on your journey, jump over to the website, concurrentfp.com, schedule your no-cost good fit meeting, and like and subscribe to the show. Today, we have a world-famous special guest today, my man, Josh Brown, founder and CEO of Ritz Host Wealth Management, co-host of the podcast Compound and Friends, and a regular contributor over at CNBC. You can always find him over there. And you know what? He always got good product in his hair. Josh, what's up, man?
Oh, you said way too many nice things to me. I'm turning red.
I tell people all the time, black folks can blush too,
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Preston. Nice to see you, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Man, there's a lot of myths out here, and you're the person out here to be busting up some myths. And rich and wealthy folks, they're not out here scrimping and saving all the time. I mean, yes, they are frugal folks, but we're all trying to be frugal at the end of the day. And I always like to say that frugal means different means to different people, and also too, you don't have to live below your means. It's just within. So everybody's always asking, what are the wealthy people doing with their money? So let's just kick it off there. I mean, what are folks doing with their money?
Well, are we talking about saving or are we talking about consumption?
Well, we're talking about a couple
of things. Investing or spending, I guess.
Yeah. We're going to talk about a couple of things, actually. What are they doing? There's about 4 or 5 things that I want to talk about. What they value most, whether it be time. Are they buying just services? Are they investing? Are they, do they value protection? All in these areas. But let's start with how they value time.
Well, I think wealthy people spend money to give themselves more time. So you might see a middle class person do their own landscaping around their house. And maybe they do that because they're enjoying it, and that's definitely possible. There are people that like to garden. There are people that like to plant and have their hands in the soil. If a wealthy person doesn't particularly care about that, and that's not their passion, they're going to pay somebody else to do that landscaping. And the way that they would frame that decision in their mind is, with that extra time, I can do blank. And sometimes that means they can do something that is important to them with their free time. And sometimes that's just a calculation. Like, I'm an attorney. My hour is worth $750. If I have to pay somebody, I figure it's X hours that I'm not spending doing that. I can spend making more money, and it's a simple arbitrage. But I think that's really what you would say separates wealthy people from middle-class people. It's not that middle-class people can't also pay for landscaping. It's just obvious to the wealthy person that that's not a good use of their time. So I think that that's like one of the primary differences that I see with wealthy people versus people of ordinary income.
Yeah. You know what? Here's the thing too. It really comes back to that. I say this all the time, is self-worth and self-value. Folks have to value themselves and be worthy of using their money. All right. And here's why I'm saying this is middle class, high net worth, whatever this may be. You have to ask yourself, do I value my time? Do I value my time? And am I worthy of this service? Because some folks have this maybe limited belief is, maybe I should be cutting my own grass. Maybe I shouldn't hire that service. I shouldn't hire a person to do my laundry or cut my grass or, hey, listen, I just had a child. I shouldn't have hire a nanny, right? So it's self-value, self-worth. What's your thoughts about that?
So I don't know if I see it exactly in terms of self-value. I think most people value their time, but like you have to set priorities. And there are just some things that you really dislike enough that it's obvious that to value yourself, you're going to pay someone else to help you with it. And then there are some things where it's lazy and you're more than happy to do those things. And it doesn't mean that you don't value your time. It just it's I think it's almost like a personal preference. We don't do Uber Eats in my house. My daughter is 17, she drives, or actually 18. She drives. We live in walking distance, for when the kids are younger, if they want to go get a slice of pizza. We just It's not that we can't afford Uber Eats. It's that it's just the concept of having somebody on a regular basis bringing meals to you it just seems like sickeningly lazy. Like if you really want a burger that badly, or a salad or whatever, like we get up and go get it. So I don't know why. That's just the culture of our house. So but then there are some things where we wouldn't dream of trying to do something ourselves, either because we're not good at it, or it's not a good use of our time, and we would just much prefer to spend that time differently. So I don't even know if this is a rich versus middle class thing. I
Yeah.
think some of these ideas are just like specific to the person or the values of the household.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And this is why the comparison game I'm not a fan of, because look, wealthy people are people as well. And it does come down to personal preference. My dad, I'm gonna make him a T-shirt, because I was raised with this common phrase. He's like, it's personal preference. It's personal preference, and it is. If you have preferences, a plan, process, and purpose that leads to prosperity. And preferences are going to mean different things to different folks. And like you said, you have different value systems in your home. And so one concept that I always bring to the table is, Josh, is like being wealthy, that's a dollar amount. And then well-being is states of well-being. You have 8 dimensions of well-being that you invest in, right? So you're using your dollars to invest in those dimensions of well-being. They're two separate things. And when folks have these preferences, like you say, then you use these dollars to invest in these pockets of well-being. And so it is an individual personal preference.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't think that there's a right way to spend money per se. I think there are things that most people would agree are wasteful, and then there are things that some people could reasonably differ. And some of us would say that's a really good use of money, and some of us would say that's not a great use of money. But I think there's room. I think there's room for there to be more than one approach to the right way to spend your money, especially if it's your money and you earned it. I don't think other people should have strong opinions about what you do.
Right. That should word, right? Okay. So, all right, let's get into this. Do wealthy people buy, quality and luxury goods? There's two aspects of this. People say no, people say yes, blah, 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 blah. What's your thoughts?
People say wealthy people don't buy luxury goods. Then who's
Yeah,
buying them?
yeah, I'm telling you, it's out there, John. I'm telling you.
No.
I mean, it's false. I mean, it's false. It's like, well, here's the.
All right, let me break this down for you.
Break it down for us. Break it
The
down.
reason why wealthy people buy luxury goods is not just to flaunt them. They're higher quality items and they last forever. And they can almost be thought of more like investments. What poor people do who think they're rich or want to pretend they're rich, they buy really trendy shit. And unfortunately, it's not in style 6 months later. And it turns out to have been a poor investment. So, one of the recent trends that we've seen is a backlash. All right. So, you had this moment during COVID where everyone was just like flaunting their wealth. Everyone was stuck at home staring at their phones. And we just went crazy over luxury houses and streetwear brands and luxury goods and Louis Vuitton and Chanel. And all of a sudden they started erecting, like when the world opened back up, they started erecting like red carpets in front of these stores. I don't know if you've seen that in Houston or in Wisconsin, wherever you've been, but like Miami has a thing called the Design District, which is a relatively new shopping area. They have velvet ropes outside of Louis Vuitton, and you have to wait to get into the store.
Yep.
That didn't exist for like 40, 50 years. There have been Gucci stores for 50 years, and then 4 years ago they started putting barricades in front and only letting a certain number of people in the store. At first, that was because for social distancing, they didn't want to pack the stores with people. But there's also a part of it that, like, all of a sudden everyone had excess money.
Yeah.
Between government programs and stimulus and all this stuff. So we had this like really gross moment of just like people doing anything for luxury and showing off how much wealth they had. And the backlash to that was the quiet luxury trend that I think was ushered in by the way the characters are dressing on Succession. And on Succession, these are not get rich quick people. These are people that are, second generation mega wealthy, the adult children in the family, and they're very understated. They don't wear Louis belts. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have big Chanel C's on like a beach hat. So that became like the counter trend, the backlash, which now I would argue is the actual trend, which is why the hottest luxury brand right now is Loro Piana. Loro Piana is not splashing their logo on a sweater. They're just selling a very elegant, well-made, well-crafted sweater that frankly is not going to go out of style in 6 months and will probably last multiple dry cleanings. You could probably wear that same sweater 5 years from now. So that's how wealthy people, like truly wealthy people, not people who got rich last week, not people who got the bag, but like actual wealthy people, they invest in pieces in their wardrobe, for example, that are going to give them a lot of mileage. And yes, they're expensive, but they're expensive because they're well made. It's not going to unravel. It's not shit from Zara that was sewn by a 6-year-old in Vietnam. Okay. So this is the way wealthy people think about consumption. This idea that they don't buy luxury brands is stupid. It's which luxury brands and which items from those luxury brands. And that, to me, is a very important distinction. And they almost think of the wardrobe choices that they're making when they're shopping as investments to some extent. And that's what separates middle-class people who want to be seen as rich, who are splashing themselves with logos and buying things that are going to be out of style in 3 months. So I've always thought of it that way.
Yeah, no, that's a great breakdown. I mean, there's a thing you can't buy taste. It's distasteful.
Well, you could buy a personal shopper who has better taste than you. That's not the worst idea.
Right. And so it's some of it just it's not a judgment. It's not a judgment because again, we're not having this conversation is not a middle class versus wealthy folks, because again, wealthy folks are just people as well. We want to encourage folks to utilize their money in a way that increases their well-being. And so when we're talking about with clothes, it's like, okay, yes, it's okay. And that's the message I want to put out there, Josh. It's like, yeah, go ahead and buy good clothing. Don't buy cheap shit. And
you should, right. You should have nice shit because you've earned it and it feels good. When you put on a garment, you put on something that's cashmere, it's a mood elevator. Forget about what anyone else thinks looking at you.
Right.
It makes you feel good, and that leads to future success. Now, do you need the double G in the middle of your chest with the Italian flag colors, stripes? All right, so that's an important distinction. I also think you'll see wealthy people spend on things like museums. You'll see them spend on experiences. You'll see them when they go to a concert. They don't go to 20 concerts in a year. They might just be one show that they really want to be at, and they buy the best tickets there. And it's like, no, I don't need to go to 20 shows this year. I only want to go to one, and I want to sit front row, middle, or I want to sit in a luxury suite with my friends and or my family or my coworkers or whoever they're treating. And that's how they carry themselves. That's how they do things. They go to a basketball game. I want to sit on the floor, second row, third row. I don't need to go to 5 of these games. So rather than go to 5 games and sit in the rafters like a schmuck, I'm going to go to one game. I'm going to sit right up close to the action. And that's the experience and the memory that I'm going to create. So like, this is like it's a mentality. And unfortunately, Preston, most people aren't taught this or taught all of these things by their parents, or especially if they created their own wealth and they weren't born into wealth. They have to have enough life experiences where they learn. They say, oh, I'm not doing that again. I want to do it that way. So what's really cool is meeting people who have made it and spending time with them and getting a front row seat for how they carry themselves and how they make these decisions and why they would choose to do one thing versus another thing. I find that that's something that somebody who's on their way toward like real success, they should be looking for examples in their life and emulating that. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's learning. It's learning. I mean, we all go through life, and life is a journey, and it's no shame or judgment because we all make mistakes, and it's learning from those mistakes and those events through life to help us get better. So I call it as a mentor. If someone or somebody's living in testimony, so to speak, you don't even have to be whatever faith as you call it. But if somebody's doing seemingly well, and you're on your aspirational journey, and someone is, and you know what, I want more of, I call it that when Harry met Sally moment. I want more of what she's having or he's having right there. Ask them what their mentality is. Unpack that for a minute. Work with the professional, to unpack that for a minute. So then you can adopt some good behavior, decisions, habits, processes to go through things, because some things, not every, shit ain't always sweet. You have to go through things in order to get trials, to get through, to get to champion moments. So, when wealthy folks have gotten to a place and they're still going through and going to a place, through a journey, Josh, it just doesn't happen overnight,
I agree.
Let's talk about this. Let's talk about what people, how they connect in their future and current selves. There seems to be this like myth that you can't do both. You work with high net worth individuals. What's their mentality about? And I serve, the same, and even mass affluent folks. It's some sort of thing that you have to be or and not and. It's like I have to deprive myself. I have to live extra frugal right now in order to, save for later, save and invest for later. I just don't think so. Matter of fact, I give to my clients that mentality. You can do both. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think there's an inherent personality type, or there are people that have been raised a certain way, and they can be rich or poor, where they just don't feel comfortable spending money on things. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there are wealthy people who are extremely frugal, and sometimes they'll tell you, well, that's how I made it to where I am. Sometimes they'll tell you, I need to be that way because it's my security blanket. It's like the thing in the back of my head where I remind myself that I haven't been reckless. So I almost don't think necessarily that that's like a behavior that can really be altered. I feel like it's a personality. But then you'll see people who are the complete opposite, and they could be rich or poor or middle class. You could see people that just, hey, I'm spending, and I like spending. I like consuming. I like having new things. I like going to the top restaurants. I like being in the scene. I like doing bottle service. I like going to Vegas and gambling. And that's what I want to do with my life. And, it's none of your business. It's my money. I don't think that there's like a value judgment that we need to put on either. And then let's also remember, it's not black or white. It's a spectrum. So there are people who say, look, this is the thing that I care about spending on. I care about spending on handbags. I want I want a Birkin bag. But I will cut coupons in the supermarket. Now, somebody else might look at that and say, wait a minute, let me get this straight. You're buying a loaf of bread that's not your favorite because it's 50 cents cheaper, but then you're also buying a $7,500 Louis bag. I don't understand. It's not for you to understand.
Right.
No one needs you to understand.
Nobody. Yeah. Well, mind your own.
You do what you do. I do what I do. I have made these choices. So in my house,
Right.
we will go to a 5-star. We will go to a 5-star hotel anywhere my wife would just rather not go on vacation, honestly. But here's the thing. I don't have money for 7 nights in a 5-star hotel. So we go away for 3 or 4 nights.
Right.
And our friends are like, that's it. That was fast. That's the experience that we wanted to have. You spent the same amount of money as us, but your hotel was a dump. That was your choice. I don't judge you.
Right.
My choice is I want to stay in the nicest hotel, and I'm good with 72 hours. And then we come home. So, facts. This is before I had money. So nobody has to understand the way we do it, and we don't need to understand the way other people do it. Different people will place different values on various aspects of like what they choose to spend on and what they choose to be cheap about. And it don't have to be explicable to everyone. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think that's all facts right there. It's like mind your own business. Well, mind your own business. I mean, it's just facts right there. It goes back to those P's process. That formula: preference, purpose, process, plan, which is a financial plan, and equals your version of prosperity. And you don't need an explanation for what you do with your own money within that concept. And I think folks get kind of off a little bit to where it's like I need to explain either to myself, to my advisor, to others, what the hell am I doing with my money?
I think more important than that is just to have your own code.
Yes,
and just have your own
self-value.
This is what I do. This is what I choose to do. And you could change your mind, but like if you know, look, this is the income I have coming in right now. These are my expenses. This is what's extra. This is the amount that I have earmarked to put away and invest and not spend. Like, if you know what your situation is, then you know where you can make that choice here and there. You know what? I'm going to treat myself. I really don't want to fly to this family reunion, but everyone guilted me into it. I have to go. I'm going to fly first class. I'm just going to feel better when I get there. Who do you have to explain that to? Nobody. Who do you have to justify that to? That's the vibes. I want to fly down. I want to fly down feeling like a human being. I want to feel good. I'm going to choose to fly first class, and I'm going to choose to get an upgraded hotel room. I'm going to pay extra, but I'm going to feel good as I'm doing that. That's great. That's what are we all working so hard for if we can't do that every once in a while?
What did the homie the Dion say?
Well, he said a lot of things.
Oh my goodness. Look good, feel good, play good, pay good.
Yeah. I mean, for some people, maybe not, but for some people, yes.
But it's about the mindset. Like, again, to each their own, but I don't, we're kind of the same age, but look, my parents, we didn't leave the house in PJs, pajamas are for sleeping. Right. Yeah. And for me, when I get up in the morning, I'm in my home studio right now. But Josh, I get up, I get out of my PJs in order to change into something that, gets me to my next stage of the day. Right.
Yeah.
And it's something about that feel good moment about preparing yourself to be in that next mindset, to be in that state of production, right? When we're trying to produce income, produce wealth in order to reinvest that into ourselves. It's a mindset. Yeah,
I agree.
It's a mindset. A couple other things. Let's close the show with a couple of things. I hear all the time people, as far as what wealthy do and what people invest their money in, as far as particularly with real estate. I think that real estate it's timely. Folks, sometimes it's illiquid. And sometimes, and even though it's a passive investment for tax wise, tax code wise, it's not passive involvement, right? I mean, so what are some of
Well,
your?
we have to separate investment from consumption. The house that you live in is consumption.
Yeah.
The vacation home that you vacation in, that's consumption. Even if you have a tenant a few months a year, it's still basically that's not paying for that property. So you're not a real estate investor because you have a house and,
Right.
and you have a condo somewhere that you use when you're away. That's you're not a real estate investor. It's not a real estate investment. It's consumption, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all have to live somewhere. That's part of our consumption. Now, if you are somebody that wants to make passive income and you want to have real estate investments, that's fine. It's not a slam dunk just because you bought a property that's going to turn out to be a good investment. I feel like with the minute or two we have left, we're probably not going to be able to cover that in great detail. But do not think of yourself as investing because now you might be investing in your quality of life, and that's different. And I love home ownership for that reason. I just don't think of it as a part of my portfolio because it's not.
Right. It is a lifestyle investment as far as your primary residence.
It's an emotional well-being that's the dividend you get from owning your own home. But I promise you, you're going to put money into that house or apartment all the time, constantly. Wear and tear, things break, or you're going to want to update, or like that's not it. That's why it's consumption and not an investment. You're not regularly taking money out of the property. You're regularly putting money into the property.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, of course. And I want to stress, like when we talk about investing or what wealthy people do with their money, there's a common thread in just what I say financially healthy people, and I titled the show this just because, folks are interested in what wealthy people are doing. You can do it too. Everybody can, as far as on your journey of building wealth, how you define it, to invest in your well-being, how you define it. It's your own journey. And investing in all this real estate is difficult. It doesn't have passive involvement. So what people are commonly investing in are themselves. All right. They're investing in honing in on a craft, something that can make a lot of income so they can then go buy assets. Education. All right. A lot of folks have education more so than businesses. All right. And then real estate, like third after the market. So these are the things people are investing in order to generate income and assets. What are your thoughts?
I agree.
Yeah. I think the real estate thing is overdone. I mean, I serve mass affluent folks and high net worth folks. Yes, you have one.
Well, they're hearing a lot about real estate from the internet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
All right. So two things. If somebody is very aggressively pitching you that you should be a real estate investor on Instagram, ask yourself why. Like what is that messaging? What do they want from you? They obviously want you to write a check and be part of their next real estate. The surefire way to know it's a scam is if they say real estate. So let me explain this to you. When people are talking fast, instead of saying real estate, which takes effort, look at the movement that my mouth has to make. I say real estate. People are talking fast. Say real estate, real estate, real estate, real estate, real estate. I watched this poor guy, the DJ in New Jersey. What's his name? On the Breakfast Club.
You're talking about DJ Envy. The dude,
this poor guy. He's so
the other dude.
He doesn't understand. So he gets like wrapped up in this Instagram real estate bullshit with Caesar.
Yeah, I remember.
I don't think Caesar's like a master criminal. I think he's just the guy that put money in the accounts. I'll use it however I want. And it got too big for him to keep doing it that way. I'm sure if he could do it again, he would have been more organized. And I don't think he was like specifically trying to steal from people. He's just not that good at what he does. And he had way too many things happening at once. But DJ Envy gets taken in by him. And why? And how could he have known better? So this is how you know better. When someone's making videos about real estate and they say the word 700 times in a 3-minute video, and they're just like rushing through what they're saying because they don't really know what they're talking about. You will hear them say real estate, real estate. I do real estate. You do real estate, because it takes time to stop and pronounce real estate. And they don't have time because they're bullshitting everyone. It's a blitz. So that's the number one tell that you're about to get scammed or stolen from or tricked in real estate, when the person talking to you keeps saying real estate. Okay.
Right.
So that this is obvious to me, not obvious to people who are encountering this stuff on social media for the first time. So a lot of people who are fans of DJ Envy got taken in by Caesar, and they figured, well, if DJ Envy is doing it, then of course it's probably good because he's rich. But they don't know that DJ Envy doesn't know anything either. And they're all getting taken in by real estate. You got to do real estate, real estate, real estate. It's not real estate. What the fuck is wrong with you? It's real estate. Slow down. Listen to the words people actually saying and read things. Slow down. If you're doing real estate, it means you're in a rush and you're going to lose your money.
Word up, word up. All right, we're gonna close the show with that. Man, Josh, man, always dropping those dimes on everybody, man. Look, if we had one thing just off the top of your head, what wealthy people are doing with their money that you'd like other people to consider, what would that be?
I think they invest in themselves. I think you said it well. They invest in their own future well-being. They invest in the next generation. They buy experiences for themselves that they can't create on their own. They go places and they take care that if they're going to spend $6,000 to be somewhere, it's worth spending $7,000 if you could have an elevated version of that experience. So they don't spend money in a half-assed way. And I think that mentality, like obviously it takes money to do that. The last thing I would say is, increasingly in the last 10 or 15 years, one thing I've observed, wealthy people combine business with pleasure in such a way so that when they travel, they're meeting people they could potentially do business with. Even when they're traveling for vacation, they put themselves in the right places, in the right scenes, and they do business with people they like, and they move in these rooms interchangeably. Sometimes they're on business, sometimes they're on vacation, but there almost doesn't seem to be a boundary between the two. And I'm seeing that's a big trend. Like private jet, leasing space on a private jet, where they put you on a jet and you're with 5 other people. You get off that plane after 3 hours and you might have 5 new people you can do business with in some way. So like that is the way wealthy people move. And I think that's a really great framing for people who are on their way toward becoming wealthy to start thinking about how they allocate their time and their money.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for those dimes. Wealthy. Hey, if you're on your journey for being wealthy, be intentional, be aware, combine business with pleasure, and listen to me and listen to my boy, Josh Brown. Josh, appreciate you, my homie.
Thank you, Preston. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
All right. That's what's up. All right. If you like what you've seen, like, and heard to the show, like and subscribe to the show. Until next time, we'll chop it up soon. Cheers. Thank you for tuning in. If you like what you heard, seen, and feel to help you achieve your wealth and well-being journey, then like, share, and subscribe to the Life Money Balance channel. And if you're ready, visit the website and schedule an appointment. And be on the lookout for the next LMB lesson. Cheers.